This is the new M3 iPad Air. It's sleek, fast, sexy. It's completely different from its predecessor, the M2. Wait, what's that? It's completely the same as the M2 model. They just swapped in the M3 chip. Did they at least give it Wi-Fi 7? This video is sponsored by Surfshark. When comparing this, the M3 iPad Air model, to its predecessor, the M2 version, like I said at the top, there really isn't a whole lot new. Apple just swapped out the M2 chip for the M3 chip. Even the colors that the iPad is shipping in are completely the same. The chip inside this iPad is already a generation old. We know the pros and cons of the M3 chip. We know its quirks. We know how fast it can go in a fanless computer thanks to MacBook Air. In fact, I even ran the Geekbench scores on this and it came out almost identical to just the M3 MacBooks. Now, for the record, the Geekbench scores for the M3 single core were 3,122 and the M3 multi-core score was 11,763. Now with the M3 chip, you get an improved media engine. Now this isn't going to be something that a lot of people take advantage of, but if you do a lot with video, this can actually be really useful. Now this is mostly focused on editing or encoding and decoding video. Now there is now an encode and decode engine for HEVC up to 8K, H.264 up to 4K, ProRes RAW video. Previously, this just supported HEVC and H.264, so it's adding kind of these more pro formats along with it. There's also a ProRes encode and decode engine along with support for AV1 decoding. Now, before anyone says, so what? This media engine is actually a big deal for people that do a lot of stuff with video. Like myself, I edit all my videos on my iPad, this iPad in particular. So it's actually a pretty big deal if you work with these file types. But editing video on the iPad is still kind of a niche thing. It's not something that a majority of people with iPads do. Now with the M3 chip over, say, the M2 chip, you also get hardware accelerated ray tracing. Now this is great for playing games. Now without getting into the nitty-gritty details of what ray tracing is, just like for example, like if you see lights in a game and you see them reflecting off of a puddle, that's ray tracing. It may not sound like a big deal, but it just helps add like life to a game. Like it makes the environment feel real. The issue here isn't the fact that the iPad can't make games look good. It absolutely can. There are a ton of stunning games on the iPad, but the problem is the lack of a AAA library for the iPad. The iPad Air is just as expensive, or in a lot of cases, depending on what storage options and configuration you get, is more expensive than something like a Steam Deck or a Legion Go. And those are fantastic handheld games that have the whole library of Steam. In Legion Go's case, since it's a Windows handheld, you have Steam, you have Xbox, you have every game library out there. So the libraries compared to those handhelds versus something like the iPad, where yes, there's a 2-year-old Assassin's Creed game on the iPad, but you know, I want to play modern games. I want to play, you know, Avowed right now, and that's not on the iPad, but that's on my Legion Go. When it comes to gaming, if Apple wants to consider the iPad as their portable gaming console, the library really needs to become more robust. Now, the iPad Air was just refreshed about 10 months ago. iPads usually only get updated every 18 to 24 months unless it's the iPad mini. In fact, the only time I can think of an iPad update happening this quickly was going from the iPad 3 to the iPad 4. The iPad 3 was the first Retina iPad, and that thing got hotter than a turkey in the deep fryer on Thanksgiving. Apple kind of rushed out an update to address that issue. I spent a lot of time this last week thinking about why Apple did this update. You know, there's never been an M3 chip in an iPad, so it's like, okay, why put one in it now? Like, and the only thing I could really think of was they have a bunch of M3 chips laying around. The M3 MacBook Air got discontinued. So they needed to put those someplace, and this was the logical place to go. Now, Apple knows when they put out a product update, it's gonna get scrutinized. Like, everyone's gonna have all their eyes on it, and the iPad Air is no exception. And this iPad Air update is exactly what it looks like. It's a spec bump. If sometime in the last 10 months or so that you got an M2 iPad Air, there's no reason to upgrade. You're not gonna miss out on anything. You are good. You are good for a while. This video is sponsored by by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN service that protects you and your data. With Surfshark, your traffic is completely encrypted from the source, your computer, to its destination. Whether you're working from a public Wi-Fi network in a coffee shop or connecting to the hotel internet, your data and privacy is secure. Now, this isn't a, well, I have nothing to hide, so I have nothing to lose kind of thing. Data is the new gold, and scary people can do scary things with your data. They can connect a lot of dots. You can even use Surfshark to check price discriminations based on a region. Now, one of my favorite things to use Surfshark for is I can change my location. So if I'm sitting here at home and I want to check out what UK Netflix has, I can just switch my location over to the UK and see what is on their Netflix library. Also, if you're traveling abroad, you can remote back into your home country and finish that show you were watching. I really like Surfshark. In fact, it's a service I pay for myself, and it's running on all my computers, from my iPhone to my iPad to even my Mac Mini. Go to surfshark.com/lolly to get an extra 4 months of Surfshark. I'm going to put some links in the description below so you can go check it out, and my thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Now, with this M3 iPad Air, Apple also released a new Magic Keyboard for the iPad. And what's great about this is it doesn't just work with the M3 iPad Air, it also goes backwards and supports the M2 iPad Air as well. Now, this is modeled after the Magic Keyboard for the M4 iPad Pro, the iPad I have right over here. It's not exactly one-to-one, they're not the same at all. There's a few things that they share and there's a few things that they don't. First off, it does have a bigger trackpad, function rows including media controls, do not disturb, dictation, spotlight, multitasking, and brightness controls, more viewing angles than the original Magic Keyboard. The iPad Air version is also a bit cheaper than the iPad Pro version and the original Magic Keyboard. For the 11-inch model, it's $269, and for the 13-inch model, the one I have here, it's $319. But this Magic Keyboard is also missing some of my favorite bits from the iPad Pro's Magic Keyboard. The keyboard part inside is made of the same rubbery plastic material of the original Magic Keyboard. I find this to be the most disappointing thing of this Magic Keyboard because I wore out that rubbery plastic material on the original mechanical keyboard twice, which meant I ended up buying 3 of those. And they're not cheap. I really love the aluminum material on the iPad Pro's Magic Keyboard. It's just a much better build quality and it feels a lot better to use. It feels more premium, and for this price, it should feel premium. The other thing is the trackpad on the iPad Air's Magic Keyboard is not haptic. In fact, it clicks. And it's loud. So if you're working in bed and you have your partner next to you trying to sleep, that's not gonna happen with that trackpad. It is very loud. The iPad Air's Magic Keyboard is also not backlit, so if you're going to be working in a dark space, you're gonna need a lamp or something because there is no backlighting on it. Now, the number one complaint when the original reviews of the original Magic Keyboard for the iPad came out in 2020 was all about the weight of it. It was extremely heavy. Now, the old 13-inch M2 iPad Air with its Magic Keyboard, that combo weighed 1,319 grams or about 46.54 ounces. Now, the new 13-inch M3 iPad Air, along with its Magic Keyboard, the combo, weighs actually more at 1,372 grams or about 48.41 ounces. That's extremely disappointing to see. Now, I weighed both the iPads and the Magic Keyboards together because you're not gonna just travel with just the Magic Keyboard and no iPad. It literally wouldn't do you anything. So that's why I weighed those together. I'm extremely surprised to see that the new iPad Airs and the new Magic Keyboards actually weigh more than the old one. Now, you can actually go on Apple's website and see that the weight difference between just the M2 iPad and the M3 iPad Air, no accessories attached, is only a gram. The M3 version weighs 1 gram more. So it is all down to the Magic Keyboard, the fact that it weighs significantly more now. Now, for the record, the iPad Pro M4, one of the selling points of it was thinner and lighter, and the Magic Keyboard was also thinner and lighter. That one weighs 1,254 grams or about 44.24 ounces. Now, for what it's worth, that 122 gram difference between the M4 iPad Pro and the M3 iPad Air is extremely noticeable when you're holding them both in your hands. So if you're looking for the lightest setup, it is not the iPad Air, it is the iPad Pro. If you're worried about, the weight you're putting in your backpack or something like that, go iPad Pro, not iPad Air. All that being said, it is a lot of compromises to save $30 when comparing this new Magic Keyboard versus the Pro model. But at the very least, it's a clear improvement over the original Magic Keyboard. Now, the M3 model supports the same Apple Pencils as the M2 model. It's the USB-C Apple Pencil and the Apple Pencil Pro. So that's nice that they support that. I'm loving the fact that the Apple Pencil lineup is getting condensed and less confusing. Now, I have here the 13-inch model. I actually haven't spent a lot of time with the 13-inch iPad Air, despite the fact this being the second one, because when the original one was announced, it got it launched alongside the iPad Pro. I know what most of the people on this channel want to see, so I focused on the iPad Pro and didn't really actually have much time for the iPad Air. But that all being said, I'm used to working from that 13-inch form factor. The M4 iPad Pro, the 13-inch model, is my main computer. So I spent a couple of days just using this iPad Air as my only computer. Put away the iPad Pro, put away everything else, just focused on using this. And honestly, there really wasn't anything too surprising about that. It handled my workflow just fine. Whether it was editing photos in Lightroom and Photoshop, editing video in Final Cut, sending emails, Obsidian, whatever I normally did on my iPad Pro, this ran just fine. I was using Stage Manager, kept it in the keyboard tray, plugged it into an external monitor, did the whole shebang. So there were a couple of things I noticed. Whenever I set up an iPad, I always go into Settings, Display, and I change the resolution to be more space. This runs the iPad at a higher resolution, but allows you to display more on the screen. What I noticed is with the iPad Air compared to the iPad Pro, everything was just a little bit bigger, so it's running at a lower resolution than the iPad Pro, so everything's just a little bit bigger. Really wasn't that big of a deal. The only thing that it meant was I wasn't able to fit all the apps that I put in the dock of my iPad. I wasn't able to fit all of those there as I normally do on my iPad Pro. But the big thing I missed kind of downgrading from the Pro to the Air was the OLED screen. The tandem OLED screen on the M4 iPad Pro is really just that good. It is my favorite feature about this iPad. And it's honestly the thing that I would have the hardest time giving up, whether it's because I sometimes watch movies, videos, whatever on this, or editing photos, editing video. Just having a really nice display makes a big difference. And while the iPad Air's display is good, it's not great. But if you were to take my iPad Pro away from me and I had to do my whole work day or work week or work month on the iPad Air, it really wouldn't be an issue. I could absolutely get it all done because iPad OS doesn't really give you anything extra for being on the Pro as opposed to the Air. You just get nice touches like a thinner, lighter device or a better display or a better keyboard, things like that. And is it worth the money? Because I get a lot of people ask me what iPad should they buy. Like, that's probably the question I get asked the most. For the price point and the features that you get, I would always tell everyone just start looking at the iPad Air. Start here. Yes, you can look to see what features the iPad Pro and maybe that might get you to bump up. But for the price point, the iPad Air is the place to start. And I don't really usually tell people to start with the base iPad because it doesn't have that fully laminate display. And that makes a big difference when using an iPad. Like it adds a really nice quality of life feature to using an iPad. Now, right now, March 2025, I would not tell everyone to run out and buy the M3 iPad Air because what's going to happen is there's still stock of the M2 iPad Air that you're going to see at places like Best Buy, Walmart, maybe Costco or something like that. And those prices are going to get knocked down. You're going to find some killer deals on M2 iPad Airs. I would probably start looking there. Now, once that stock dwindles, you can look at the M3, but right now, just comparing apples to apples, you don't really get anything extra for this. So if you could save $100 or $200, I would do that and put it towards the Magic Keyboard. If you're going to be doing a lot of work from your iPad, if you're really going to be pushing the power, whether you're doing creative work or whatever, you're going to be pushing the power of your iPad, then maybe that's when you need to start looking at the iPad Pro. Maybe you want a really nice screen because you're constantly watching movies on it because you're flying a lot or something like that. That might be when you want to start looking at the iPad Pro. Or if you just have extra money laying around and you want a nicer device, that's the iPad Pro. I mean, it's my computer. It's the computer I work from every day. It's just a big price jump, so you have to be okay with that yourself. And I can't sit here and tell you, yes, you're okay with it, because I don't know your situation. For most people, and I do mean most people, like 90% of the people out there, the iPad Air is gonna be perfect for them. Now, when it comes to size, what should you get? I have two 13-inch iPads right here. If you're somebody that wants to make the iPad your main computer, that's when you go with the 13-inch. You have more space, so you can put up multiple apps, multiple documents, reference things back and forth. You get the full-size Magic Keyboard, so all the buttons are the right size and stuff like that. Big creative canvas. It's really nice, especially if you're an artist and you're drawing with the Apple Pencil. 13 inches is the way to go. But if you're somebody that just wants to use it as a tablet, hold it, order stuff online, browse the web, play games, stuff like that, that's where the 11-inch comes in. It's just so much nicer to hold for a long period of time. I always, I get on these like tracks of like, oh, I'm gonna use my 13-inch iPad as a tablet a lot more now, and I'm gonna hold it in my hands. I do that for like a couple of days, a week maybe, and then I get annoyed with it, goes right back in the Magic Keyboard, and I never take it out again until I get back on that cycle. So that's it. That's the new iPad Air. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. My thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day.